Discover the heartwarming journey of Seat 12F, her call sign inspired incredible F-22 pilots. Sarah stood beneath the infinite canvas of the sky, feeling the weight of the world on her shoulders. In her small Midwestern town, a place where dreams were crushed as swiftly as the engines her father repaired, she had earned the mocking name Seat 12F. It was a constant reminder, whispered among her peers, of her family's struggles. Yet, instead of cowering in uncertainty, her spirit ignited like a jet engine roaring to life. She wanted more than the town's shadows. She wanted to soar. Her father, a veteran and a local mechanic, raised her with grease-stained hands and a heart full of hope. He taught her that although life threw curveballs, determination could lift even the heaviest burdens. They would sit on the porch, the scent of fresh oil lingering in the air, as he recounted tales of soldiers who fought for a better tomorrow. The flicker in his eyes ignited her ambitions. "You just have to dream it, Sarah," he'd say. "And work like hell to get there." The first day of senior year arrived, and Sarah clenched her fists as laughter echoed in the hallways. "Look, it's Seat 12F, jeered one of the popular girls, prompting a wave of giggles. But Sarah took a deep breath. Instead of crumbling, she fueled the fire in her belly. She sought refuge at the local airbase, her heart pounding with excitement and anticipation. Securing an internship there felt like an act of rebellion against the small-mindedness that clung to her town. When she walked onto the airbase, the roar of the F-22s ignited a spark within her. She could feel each pulse of the machines as they prepared for flight, engines vibrating like her own restless spirit. The pilots, initially wary, couldn't help but notice her grit. They started to call her kid. But as she proved herself, they soon came to see her as someone greater, a budding leader with the tenacity to rise above fading expectations. But clouds gathered on the horizon. A mission went sideways, tensions flaring as accusations flew amongst the pilots. Sarah found herself wedged between the tight-knit military community and the haunting realities of her hometown's economic struggles. The pilots were aching to fight for their ideals, yet their begrudging biases toward her humble beginnings emerged. Would they align with her brave vision, or would they continue the cycle of silence and prejudice? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Sarah took a stand. In the following days, she organized a meeting at the base to discuss accountability and ethics in their mission. Her heart raced as she pictured her father watching her, pride shining through his weathered face. As the meeting unfolded, a hush fell over the room. The gathering was charged with emotion. The pilots started to question their preconceived notions. Could they redefine what it meant to lead? Together, with every word she spoke, Sarah felt the tides shifting, not just for herself but for her entire community. But the coming moments would test her resolve in ways she could never predict, leading to a vital decision that could alter the course of her life. As she stood at that precipice, the stakes never felt higher. Would she cling to the love of family and community, or leap into a future that might eclipse her roots? The air buzzed with uncertainty, and her heart raced, each beat signaling the weight of the dreams yet to be fully realized. What would she choose? Sarah's heartbeat was a drumroll echoing in her ears. She stood before the pilots, their eyes reflecting a blend of skepticism and curiosity. The weight of their expectations pressed down on her like a heavy armor. She had to carve a way for herself amidst the noise. Clenching her fists, she steadied her trembling voice. "Look, I get it," she began, her breath hitching. "I'm just some kid from a small town. But that doesn't mean I don't have ideas worth listening to. You fought for your country, and those ideals mean something, don't they? We can't be blind to who's in the cockpit with us." The room was silent, every face a canvas of contemplation. In that bare space, she saw a flicker of change, a doubt creeping into their rigid beliefs. Perhaps they were starting to see the battle she'd fought not just to prove herself but to bridge the gap between them and her roots. As the meeting continued, one of the older pilots, Captain Daniels, countered, "Experience is vital up there. You can't just learn everything from books, Sarah." His words cut through her, but she refused to back down. "Maybe not," she shot back, "but sometimes you need a fresh perspective. I see things from the ground from where people depend on you to protect them. That's got to count for something, right?" A murmur rippled through the room. She could sense a change, not just in their voices but in their body language. They were leaning in, feeling her passion like a gust of wind lifting their sails. Weeks passed and something transformed within both the pilots and Sarah. They bonded over shared laughter and long hours in the hangar, gleaming wrenches in hand, fixing the very machines that would one day carry them into the skies. Slowly, the derogatory comments dimmed, replaced by genuine camaraderie. Sarah became part of the team, a part of something larger than any of them had imagined, yet, just as hope blossomed, shadows loomed. Missions loomed closer, and with them came the weight of choices. One evening, as the dusky horizon melted into a starry canvas, Sarah overheard whispers of an upcoming deployment, a chance for the pilots to earn their stripes in real combat. Excitement faded into dread as she heard the hushed tones of doubt again. "Kid might not handle it," one said, followed by a string of chuckles. Sarah felt her stomach twist. A deployment could also mean her chance to prove herself as a capable leader. The idea of sitting out gnawed at her. She spent sleepless nights staring at the ceiling, running scenarios through her mind. Should she take a risk, pushing for the mission, or protect the fragile trust she'd built within the squad? It was a constant tug-of-war in her heart, military ideals fighting against deep-seated fears. As she prepared for the next meeting, she realized that the voices of doubt were not only from the pilots, they echoed in her own mind. What if she faltered? What if they were right? The stakes heightened, and her choice loomed over her like a storm cloud. On the night of the meeting, she took her place in front of the pilots once again. Their eyes fixated on her, waiting for her to pave the way forward. She inhaled deeply, feeling every ounce of hope mingling with fear. Would she present her vision of leading a joint mission, risking everything to prove she belonged, or would she retreat into safety, the very thing she'd fought against for so long, with the weight of her hometown, her father's voice, and a room of skeptical pilots behind her? She was ready to take a leap. But as she opened her mouth to speak, a loud crash echoed from outside, followed by frantic footsteps. "Get your gear. We have incoming." The urgency froze her in place. This unexpected twist had just raised the stakes higher than she could have ever imagined. As adrenaline coursed through her veins, Sarah realized that her moment of truth had arrived. Would she rise to the challenge, or would it bury her? Her heart sputtered wildly, trapped between destiny and panic. The world outside erupted into chaos. Alarms blared, an insistent siren that rattled every thought in Sarah's mind. She glanced at the pilots, their faces a mix of surprise and determination, a transformation of their earlier skepticism. This was real. Lives were at stake, and instinct overrode doubt. "Sarah!" Captain Daniels barked, snapping her back to the moment. He was already moving toward the armory, his voice cutting through the sound of urgency. "Gear up. We need everyone ready now." Sarah's heart raced, pounding like a drum against her ribcage. This was her chance. She had always dreamed of flying, of being part of something bigger, but it didn't come with a manual for moments like this. She sprinted after the captain, adrenaline fueling her steps as she quickly slipped into her flight suit. She adjusted her helmet, hands trembling not with fear but with anticipation. As she joined the squad, watching them move efficiently, working as one, she felt a peculiar sense of unity. The pilots were no longer just colleagues, they were family. She could feel the weight of their shared trust, the connections forged through hours of laughter and long nights in the hangar. This was it. She could be part of this moment. "Think you can handle yourself up there, kid?" One of the younger pilots asked with a grin, a hint of playful challenge sparking in his eyes. It was Michael, the one who had voiced his doubts in earlier meetings. Now, his tone was changed, a mix of confidence and camaraderie. "I don't just think I can, I know I can," Sarah replied, her voice steady, draped in a newfound confidence. The tension around her shifted, lightened. In moments, they were all scrambling to the cockpits. Engines roared to life as Sarah climbed into her seat. The familiar sensations flooded back, the dim lights, the hum of machinery, the scent of metal and oil. She gripped the controls, heart pounding in rhythm with the pulsing engine beneath her. Now it all felt real. She was stepping into the very cockpit she had so long dreamed of, and not just as an observer. "Let us go, ladies and gentlemen." Captain Daniel's voice came over the comms, sharp and authoritative. "We're moving out." The aircraft surged forward, and Sarah felt the thrill of flight begin to take hold, the ground dropping away beneath her. They soared into the darkening sky, stars spilling across the navy canvas as the world below faded into the distance. Then came the voice of the operations officer, crackling through her headset. "Incoming targets identified. Eyes on the sky, stay sharp." Sarah focused, scanning the radar, clenching her jaw. Her gut twisted with the weight of responsibility but also with a sense of purpose. This was what she had trained for, what she had fought for against every whisper of doubt. "Stay together, stick to formation," Captain Daniels commanded, echoing through the static. "Sarah, take point." As she steered the aircraft, a wild elation surged within her. She felt alive, powerful. This was her moment. But soon, she noticed something strange, a flicker of movement on her radar, something that didn't feel right. A knot formed in her stomach as she communicated her findings. "There's something off," she said, tension rising in her voice. "I think we have company," and just like that, an explosion echoed through the skies, shaking her aircraft as alarms blared. The team erupted into action. They had been targeted, and suddenly, everything shifted. The sense of teamwork and camaraderie flipped into an intense fight for survival. "Brace yourselves," Captain Daniels shouted, but there was no time for fear. They were now in the thick of it. Sarah's heart raced, not just from nerves but with a fierce instinct to protect her comrades. Would she find the strength to lead them through this? Or would she let fear take the wheel once more, right when they needed her most? A sense of destiny gripped her. This wasn't just a mission, it was a defining moment. This was where her story was truly beginning, and she was determined to see it through, to show everyone, including herself, that she belonged. As they dodged enemy fire, her eyes narrowed with fierce resolve. Would she discover the leader within when everything was on the line? The challenge lay before her, and somehow, she knew she had to rise. The very height of the sky awaited her. "Enemy aircraft confirmed. Heads up." The operations officer's voice sliced through the cockpit chaos. Sarah's heart raced harder now, wild and erratic. This was it. The moment she had waited for, a test of all her training, and even the dreams that had kept her going. She gripped the controls, feeling their power like a river rushing beneath her. She could feel her squad's energy, it surged through her, a collective heartbeat. "Stay vigilant," she yelled over the roar of the engines, clarity fueling her words. "They're closing in." Flashes lit up the sky like fireworks, a deadly spectacle. Her radar blipped wildly, and Sarah focused. There were 2 bogies coming in fast. "I'll take the left," she called out. It was a leap of faith, a decision made in a split second, but she felt it deep within her bones that she had to act. "Copy that," Captain Daniels replied, his voice steady despite the turmoil. "We'll cover your 6. She tightened her grip and angled the aircraft, diving slightly, then leveling out. The ground below was nothing but a blur, but the enemy aircraft were crystal clear, sleek, dark, and aggressive. Her breathing steadied, and time seemed to slow. With each calculated maneuver, her instincts took over. This was her chance not just to fly but to show what she was capable of. She felt the immense weight of her squad's expectations but also the thrill of competition, adrenaline igniting beneath her skin. Target locked. She shouted, and with a quick thumb motion, she unleashed a volley of missiles. They tore through the air, streaks of light reflecting the stars, heading straight for the pursuing plane. The satisfaction of the strike echoed in her heart. One down. Great job, Sarah. Michael cheered over the comms, his voice a warm wind amid the storm. But just as quickly, another worry sprang to her mind. A shadow darted past her cockpit. Incoming on the right. She shouted, just as a jolt rocked her plane. A sudden impact sent alarms screeching. I'm hit. A knot of panic twisted in her gut. For half a heartbeat, Sarah felt that familiar wave of fear washing over her. No time to dwell. She reminded herself, shaking it off. Keep flying. Her heart hammered in her chest, and she realized that being afraid didn't mean she was weak, it meant she was human. Focus, Sarah. Get that plane back in line. Captain Daniel's voice grounded her even as chaos swirled around them. She fought to regain control, feeling the aircraft shudder beneath her. With grit, she leveled out, patterning her breath, focusing on her task as she pushed the throttle forward. On my 6. Sarah called, knowing the rest of her team was close behind, ready to cover her. Together, they maneuvered. She relished in the teamwork, the way they worked in perfect rhythm, despite the mayhem. A voice broke through the noise again, the operations officer relaying vital information. More targets incoming. Composure is key, team. We need to keep moving. They dove into the fray again, weaving and dodging enemy fire. Sarah was in the thick of it, every instinct sharpened, every fiber of her being aligned with purpose. She glanced at her squad, the fierce determination in their eyes mirrored her own. But there was something nagging at the edges of her mind. A question she hadn't the time to fully acknowledge. What if she couldn't hold this together? What if her bravado wasn't enough? Sarah. You are a leader, you've got this. Captain Daniels shouted, pulling her back to the moment. His faith reignited the fire within her. Yes. Focus. She yelled to herself. The ground shook with the intensity of their mission, but all she could see was the path ahead. Their survival, their futures, all depended on sticking together and trusting each other. Suddenly, another jet burst into view. Brace yourselves. Captain Daniels shouted. Sarah's heart plummeted. Nothing was certain now. Right in the middle of the storm, how would she rally her team? Would they find strength enough to save each other, or would the weight of fear pull them into darkness? As she lined up on the enemy aircraft, she took a deep breath, focusing on the question that lay ahead. Would they come out the other side, together? The moment held all the weight of what came next. The world outside the cockpit turned into a whirlwind of flashing lights and thunderous booms. Each blast shook Sarah's frame as her hands gripped the controls, paralyzed between fear and determination. She locked her eyes on the enemy jet. It moved with an eerie precision, fast and unyielding. Targeting system engaged. She called out, but her heart raced not just from adrenaline, it was a deep-seated worry creeping in. What if she missed? What if this was the moment everything fell apart? No, she chided herself. It wouldn't come to that. They had come too far. Stay on course, team. Captain Daniel's voice was a steady anchor amidst the chaos. Sarah could feel the tension in the air, that heavy weight the pilots all carried when the odds seemed against them. Eyes focused, she danced the aircraft to avoid a hail of enemy fire. Come on, Sarah. You've got this. She whispered to herself, a mantra her mind clung to when doubt threatened to quench her fire. In that moment, she thought about her team, about the laughter they shared on base, the late-night strategy sessions, the camaraderie that brought them all here, fighting as one. The enemy jet drew closer, its sleek form reflecting the moonlight, a dark predator in the night. Here goes nothing, she muttered, fingers poised over the trigger, then came the voice of the operations officer, cutting through the cacophony. "All units, we have a tail on our back. Get those flares ready." Her breath hitched. A tail? I can't focus on that now. Panic rose again, it squeezed around her, pulling at her. But she shook her head, forcing herself to concentrate. They had each other's backs. It was their only chance. "Michael, keep eyes on our six," she commanded, heart pounding as she swiveled her gaze. "I can't watch both." The rush had a way of intensifying her thoughts while sharpening her instincts. "On it," came the reply, reassuringly strong. With a flick of her wrist, she unleashed her weaponry, missiles soaring confidently toward the enemy. But just as she thought she'd found clarity, out of nowhere, a searing blast rocked them. Another impact. "Maintenance controls, now." The cockpit alarm shrieked, a winter wind cutting through her resolve. "I'm on it," she growled, hands shaking as she fought to retain control. But doubt gnawed at her. Would she really be able to do this? Would they all make it back? Flashes of home invaded her mind, a mother's embrace, friends cheering, the taste of barbecue on a hot summer day. "Sarah! We need your command!" Captain Daniels shouted, and suddenly, the reality of the situation blazed like a comet. She wasn't just flying, she was leading. "Right. Hold steady." She pushed back against the uncertainties, feeling the weight of their lives pressing against her. "Flares! Now, now, now!" she ordered, fatigue mixing with urgency. The flares shot out in a burst of color, creating a dazzling distraction. The enemy jet veered off course, just as planned. A collective sigh of relief buzzed through her team, and for a moment, hope flickered bright. That was before she could finish her thought, an ominous shadow loomed behind her. "Incoming! It's not done yet." Heart racing, she shoved the throttle up, aiming for altitude. "Rally back together. We don't leave anyone behind." Their wings barely grazed. Her squad was reuniting, forming a single unit, but just as the adrenaline thrummed through her veins, Sarah felt something else. An unexpected resolve, a simmering strength bubbling to the surface. She wouldn't falter, she would protect them all. Together. She roared, pushing the aircraft higher, their spirits bound by the unyielding promise. In that moment, she knew, it wasn't just about her. They were fighting for each other. The enemy jet circled, a swirling storm of fire and fury, but they would face it together. Would their bond be enough to weather the fear? Would the strength of their unity carry them through to the other side? The truth loomed just ahead. Each choice would determine if they would emerge triumphant or be lost in the chaos. The cockpit filled with a high-pitched whine as Sarah clawed at the controls, sweat beading on her brow. The enemy jets closed in, their menacing shapes like predatory birds. Her squadron was being pushed to their limits, no room for doubt now. "Push through together." Captain Daniels shouted, his voice a fierce belt of encouragement. "We've trained for moments like this." Their hearts beat as one, echoing against the backdrop of chaos. Sarah felt an electric connection with her team. Each one of them was counting on their shared strength, and it drove her. She inhaled sharply, focusing on the mission beyond her mounting fears. "Michael! Set up a defensive formation." She barked, feeling the rush of authority pulse through her. This was her moment, not just as a pilot but as a leader. The pressure melted away into a determined clarity. "Copy that. Formation established." Michael's reply was immediate, steadied by adrenaline. The enemy jets veered close again, and she could see their pilot's movements with an eerie precision. It was a dance, each turn and roll choreographed in combat. Sarah had to become one with her aircraft, the two had to meld into one seamless entity. She adjusted her grip, willing her fingers to steady. "Flares ready on my mark," she announced, the words firing like a bullet from her lips. Then came the sudden strike, a jolt transmitted through the metal frame as another shot reverberated off them. Sarah gripped tighter, the cockpit lights flashing warnings like a Christmas tree gone mad. Damage report. Status now. She commanded, her heartbeat bounding like a war drum. Left wing compromised. We're leaking fuel. Michael's voice trembled slightly, but it was filled with a fight she admired. Hang tight. She urged, forcing her voice to stay calm. We've got this. She could almost hear the distant sounds of laughter from their moments of training, and suddenly, she felt an overwhelming surge of purpose. They'd worked too hard to let fear dictate their fate. Now. Flares. The words erupted from her. She pulled the lever, and a sparkling cascade lit up the night, illuminating the sky in vibrant reds and greens. It felt like throwing glitter at a storm. The enemy jets recoiled, momentarily blinded, they were moments away from crossing the line into safety. But she sensed the tension still thick in the air, a fragile thread waiting to snap. The shadow of the enemy jet was still there, looming, searching for its prey again. Sarah pushed the throttle down, feeling the surge of power. We cannot show weakness. She shouted, rallying her team. Regroup. On my tail. Her heart thundered as they charged through the darkness, cutting through the chaos. Don't let anyone fall behind. Each word felt like a lifeline, tethering them together. The mission wasn't about flying, it was about each of them, every heartbeat, every wound, every victory shared. The enemy jet clawed through the night like a venomous snake, but with each maneuver, Sarah's spirit soared. She could feel the weight of the world shifting. They were fighting together. As one last blast rang out, the cockpit surged with a blinding light. Brace for impact. It hit them, a physical shockwave that rattled the air around them. Instinct kicked in, and Sarah swung the aircraft to regain control. Around her, a symphony of voices filled the radio. On your left. Watch your six. She drew strength from their unity, not just fighting against the cold terror but fighting for each other. They were more than pilots now, they were family, but just as victory seemed imminent, something shifted in the atmosphere, a tension that reverberated through the cockpit. Sarah, what's your plan? Captain Daniels asked, urgency coating his tone. As her eyes flickered across the instruments, a chilling thought struck her. Was there one more challenge ahead? Something's not right, she whispered to herself. What would they have to face next? She felt the weight of their lives resting on her shoulders, and a familiar doubt tugged at her heart. But with determination coursing through her veins, Sarah knew she couldn't back down. How would she lead them through the storm when the real danger lay unseen? She gripped the controls tighter, preparing for whatever lay ahead. The cockpit buzzed, an unsettling unease rippling through the air like an electric charge. Sarah's eyes darted between the instruments, fingers forging a connection with the controls that felt as natural as breathing. But even in this high-stakes chaos, she sensed something chilling. The enemy was waiting, stalking them in silence, deeper than they had anticipated. Keep your eyes peeled. We might not be alone. She shouted, feeling both the weight of her responsibility and the pulse of camaraderie surrounding her. The radio crackled again. What do you see, Sarah? It was Michael, his voice tight but steady. Just keep flying. Trust the instincts. She knew they relied on her assurance just as much as her skills. But what if those instincts had missed something critical? What if danger lurked just beyond their vision, hidden like shadows in the dark? As they surged through the night sky, Sarah's heart pounded with the thought of their shared fate. Moments earlier, she felt invincible alongside her squad, but uncertainty clawed at her now, threatening to unravel their hard-earned bond. She'd been in tight spots before, but she had never felt this vulnerable. Adjust heading 5 degrees east, she commanded, hoping to catch whatever unseen threat was closing in. Her mind raced. Had they made a mistake back at base? Was there intel they hadn't received? They veered, and the cockpit lights flickered ominously as a sudden jolt caused the aircraft to tremble beneath her. What now? She pressed, but before anyone could respond, the radio burst with static, a voice barely discernible amid the noise. Mayday, target locked, need immediate assistance. The voice cracked and faded, fragmented like broken glass. Did anyone else hear that? Captain Daniels shot out, confusion lacing his tone. Yeah. It's south, coming from somewhere close. I think Sarah's voice trailed off, an icy realization dawning on her. They're in trouble. We can't abandon them. Are you sure? Michael interjected, apprehension thick in the air. We can't risk our own lives for a voice on the radio. But just as doubt settled in, Sarah's resolve crystallized. She thought of her team, their laughter, their shared dreams. They were family. And families didn't leave anyone behind. All right, change course. She snapped decisively. We're heading in. The atmosphere shifted, adrenaline mixing with an urgent thrill. If there was a chance, any chance they could save whoever was out there, how could they not try? Her fingers flew over the controls, guiding her comrades into the unknown. The thrill of defiance sparked within her. Stay sharp. We'll get through this together. She shouted, her heart pounding in unison with theirs, the unity charging into a driving force. They turned sharply, each aircraft following Sarah's lead, and the darkness enveloped them like a blanket. But Sarah held her breath, hoping the trust she felt in her pilots would carry them through. As they barreled forward, a brilliant flash of light pierced the darkness ahead. What in the world is that? Captain Daniels shouted, all mixed with dread, just as hope began to flicker. Ominous shapes emerged from the shadows, glinting like teeth in the night. They were not alone anymore. Enemy aircraft on the radar. Michael's voice shook with urgency. They're right on top of us. Sarah clenched her jaw, adrenaline rushing like a river through her veins. The fight wasn't over yet, and they were going to have to give everything they had. What's your plan now, Sarah? Captain Daniels asked again, the urgency tangling with faith in her leadership. In that charged moment, she realized they had a choice: fight or flee. But running was never an option for her or her squad. We fight. She shouted, her voice ringing with fierce conviction. We fight for them, and we fight for us. With that, she pushed forward, determined to face the storm head-on. But as the enemy jets closed in, a deep fear settled within her. What if this time it was too much? The lines of battle blurred, and her heart raced. To face what lay ahead, would she unlock the strongest depths of her courage, or would everything unravel? The moment hung in the air, electric and weighty. The enemy aircraft loomed like predators, sharp and menacing against the moonlit sky. Sarah could barely catch her breath as urgency crackled through the cockpit. Each pilot exchanged a glance, sharing unspoken fears and solidifying their resolve. Engage the enemy at my command. Sarah commanded, her voice cutting through the tension. Michael, lock onto their tail. Daniels, set weapon systems to active. Their hearts synchronized rhythmically like a war drum. Sarah's instincts flared. She felt the cold grip of fear at her spine, but she pushed it aside. Let us do this, she whispered, a fragile hope flickering deep within her. With a swift motion, she maneuvered the plane, dodging the first volley of enemy fire. They lit up the night like fireworks, streaks of death barely missing them. The cockpit was alive with the sounds of beeping alerts, the frantic chatter of pilots, and the whisper of wind cutting through the aircraft's frame. Keep steady. She yelled, her hands gripping the controls tightly, adjusting their flight path with unwavering determination. We can outsmart them. Sarah had trained for moments like this. She had visualized every scenario, each spin and spiral. Yet, now that it was real, her heart trembled. She thought of her squad, of all those late-night talks over coffee and shared laughter. Their lives mattered. Fighting for them ignited a fierce fire within her. Ready, weapons on my mark, she said, squeezing her eyes shut for just a breath. The image of her family surged forward. They would be proud of her. With a deep inhale, she exhaled all doubt. Now. In sync, the squadron unleashed torrents of firepower, tracing arcs of bright light across the sky as they targeted the enemy formations. For a heartbeat, everything fell silent. The impact. The explosions. The billowing smoke that twisted through the night air. They were intense and chaotic, yet somehow beautiful. Direct hit. Michael cheered, his voice breaking through the din as one of the enemy jets spiraled downward in a blaze. That's one. Sarah shouted back, adrenaline racing. But the battle was still far from won. More enemy jets zipped around them, eager to retaliate. Reassess. We need to break formation, Captain Daniels advised, his voice a calm amidst the chaos. We'll spread out to avoid their fire. With quick nods, Sarah and her team acknowledged the plan, moving with instinctive fluidity. They formed a loose circle, tactical positioning their best defense against a swarm ahead. The air crackled with tension, each beep from the radar sending a pulse through her veins. Okay, we've got their numbers. Keep your heads up. She called out, realizing they needed to become the storm. Her heart raced as they dove into the fray, targeting jets spiraling down from above, avoiding fire, and returning shots with precision. This was their moment, their fight. For a heartbeat, they were beyond fear, beyond worry. They were alive, yet as they wove through the firefight, Sarah spotted something out of the corner of her eye, one aircraft veering toward a narrow canyon. She felt it in her gut, a trap. Watch out. It's a decoy, she warned, but it was too late. A sudden explosion rocked the cockpit, sending vibrations and chaos swirling around them. The force sent her reeling, her instincts barely keeping her grounded. Get back. She screamed as alarms wailed. Michael's voice crackled over the radio, panic slicing through the air. Sarah, we've lost control of one of the planes. Time slowed. Fear constricted her chest, icy fingers wrapping around her heart. They were not just fighting for survival, now, they were fighting to save one of their own. Would they make it in time? Hold on. She yelled, determination surging once more. We're going to get them out. But deep down, she sensed a power within her starting to unravel. What's next, she wondered, as they charged into the unknown, racing against time and fate. Would they be able to defy the odds? The cockpit felt small and suffocating. Every heartbeat heralded the next. Challenge lurking just around the corner, and Sarah could only hope her courage would carry them through. Michael, we need to regroup. Sarah shouted, fighting against the roar of alarms and the chaos. The sensation of vulnerability threatened to swallow her whole, but she wouldn't let that happen, not now. Her team was still reeling from the explosion. They had lost part of their formation, and the enemy knew it. She could see them circling like vultures, ready to strike. Her adrenaline surged, feeding her fight-or-flight instincts. Daniels, can you pinpoint their position? She demanded, trusting her instincts while trying to maintain clarity in the tempest around her. On it, came his steady response. I see the missing plane. They're losing altitude fast, it's going down toward the canyon. Panic clawed at Sarah's throat. They were close, too close. She could practically feel the echoes of their laughter and dreams booming in her heart. She remembered the young pilots who had come to her for advice, their eyes wide with the thrill of serving. They were more than just teammates, they were family. Michael, you and I will head for that canyon. Daniels, take the rear. Guard us. Nods came through the comms. As they arced toward the canyon, Sarah's focus sharpened. The dark mouth of the rocky passage loomed before them, deceptive and treacherous. It was a gauntlet of stone and shadows. Stay tight, keep your formations. She barked, her voice firm. The canyon walls shot up on either side, and the world narrowed. The radio buzzed with static as they flew through the rocky labyrinth. Hold on. We need to clear space, Michael warned as they dove and swerved. Every instinct screamed at Sarah to turn back. No. We can't abandon them. She shouted, her voice rising against the rush of wind. The thought of one of her own lost, scared was unbearable. Losing someone, especially now, felt like a betrayal. Suddenly, the cockpit shook again, another blast echoed not far behind. "They're on us. I'm taking evasive maneuvers." Daniels alerted, his voice calm amidst the storm. The fear in it, though, was unmistakable. Sarah felt the weight of their lives resting on her decisions. Just aim for them. One more push. With agility born from hours of practice, they navigated the sharp bends of the canyon like dancers, their planes gliding through the maelstrom of rock and fire. The world was flashing explosions lighting up the walls like fireworks, revealing the dark shadows behind. "Sarah. I see them. They're alive." Michael's voice pierced through her chaotic thoughts. Relief and dread blended into a cocktail of emotions as she focused her eyes ahead. The downed aircraft lay concealed, half crushed against the canyon's rigid edge. "Let us bring them home," she urged, but the urgency of time pressed hard. They needed to act quickly before the enemy regained their foothold. With a deep breath, Sarah locked her sights on the enemy pursuing them, ready to defend her team at all costs. "We need a distraction. Michael, take out that jet now." For an instant, the world narrowed. She felt powerful. She felt vulnerable. As the barrage of fire erupted again, she realized that strength didn't come from the absence of fear, it came from pushing through it. Michael's fighter zipped away, unleashing a storm of precision gunfire. The enemy jet spiraled down, but the distraction came at a cost. "Michael. Watch out." Sarah's heart raced as the radar lit up with missile trails. "Sarah. It's south, too close." He yelled back, the panic flooding his tone. Time felt elastic, stretching out as danger lurked closer. Sarah held her breath, fraught with the moment of truth. Would they escape, or was this the end of their fight? In that instant, she caught a glimpse of their fellow pilot, struggling in the wreckage, and hope ignited once more. "Let us save them," she whispered, determination burning strong, but deep down, worries churned. Would they make it through the storm that was to come? Would they truly unite against fate, or would it tear them apart? Ahead lay choices, destinies, and the unknown. Was courage enough to guide them? The adrenaline was a living thing, crackling in the air like static electricity as Sarah tightened her grip on the controls. Tension buzzed through the cockpit, pooling in her stomach and igniting the fire in her spirit. This was the moment she trained for, this was her mission. "Sarah, we need that distraction now." Captain Daniels shouted, urgency pouring into every word. "I got this." She replied, her voice steady despite the tempest around them. A determination surged through her, catching fire within her heart, a blazing desire to protect her family, her squad, and herself. They had fought too hard, endured too much to falter now. With Michael out there putting himself on the line for them, she had to ensure they remained a united front. She spun the aircraft toward the enemy while keeping her mind clear, focused only on the throbbing heartbeat of the mission. "Eyes up. On my mark." She called out, her pulse racing. As the enemy jet bore down, she maneuvered her plane, pushing everything she had into the moment. With a primal roar, she fragmented the darkness with bright beams of firepower. "Firing now!" she shouted, her heart swelling at the sight of the enemy jet spiraling into chaos. Confidence flooded her veins as she guided her squad with ferocity, lighting their path through the maze of danger. "Nice work, Sarah." Michael cheered through the comms, his voice a soothing balm that brought clarity amidst her whirlwind thoughts, but time was running short, the enemy wasn't done yet. Her eyes remained trained on the canyon ahead as the wrecked fighter came into view. "We have to get our teammate out of there, now," she urged, her heart feeling heavy with responsibility. "Let us move," Captain Daniels commanded, his voice echoing through the chaos of the battlefield. They plunged deeper into the canyon, the walls looming closely like prison bars, as they searched for signs of life in the wreckage, the flashes of gunfire lit up the walls around them, red and gold flickers darting through the dark. "We don't have much time," Sarah insisted, scanning her surroundings. Then an anguished cry broke through the noise. "Help! I can't get out." It was their comrade, trapped and terrified. Sarah's heart dropped, fear clawing at her. This could cost them everything. "Michael, fly closer. We're going to lift them out," she shouted, tone hard yet filled with urgency. "Daniels, cover us." "On my six." Captain Daniels replied, the steadfastness of his voice anchoring them both. With courage swelling in her chest, she directed their formation, encapsulating the downed aircraft as they dove, adrenaline blending urgency and hope. "Hold on. We're coming for you," she yelled, her resolve burning like a beacon. They could see him now, struggling against the twisted metal. Sarah's chest tightened. The sight was gripping, yet it ignited the fire within her to push onward. "Together. We can do this." She rallied the team, her heart pounding in sync with each frantic pulse of her bravery. "Flares ready," Michael confirmed, prepping for the moment they had to shield their teammate from the incoming enemy fire. "Count it down. 3, 2, 1 now." As the flares shot out, brightening the darkness, the enemy jets recoiled momentarily, blinded. "Go," Sarah commanded, sweeping in closer. "Now. Pull him up. We've got you," Sarah shouted over the comms as Michael maneuvered his fighter lower, leaning down to grab the terrified pilot. It felt surreal, like flying through a dream filled with urgency and fear. "Hang on." Michael's voice carried a hint of panic, but they couldn't afford hesitation. Sarah turned her gaze back to the sky, watching the enemy forms approach once more, but not this time. Not this time. The jet tilted slightly as their comrade struggled to get free. Every moment felt stretched into eternity. Could they get him? She pressed her foot down harder on the throttle, willing the aircraft to fly faster. Their courage would not dwindle. "We're right here. Almost there." And just like that, Michael secured their teammate, grabbing him tight and pulling him aboard. "Got him. Let us go." Sarah heard, relief crashing over her, but it came hand in hand with worry. The enemy was still closing in, fire on their tail, and their escape was anything but guaranteed. "Let us break through." Captain Daniels led the charge, and they rallied together for one last push. "Stay close. We fly like always. This is our family. This is our fight," Sarah shouted, her heart echoing the resolve that had built over countless sunsets spent dreaming on her porch. They flew hard, gliding through chaos as if propelled by a force greater than themselves, a bond forged in fire and etched with laughter and determination. She could feel it. This moment marked a transformation. Not just for her but for every pilot she fought beside. Every doubt, every struggle had led here, into the heart of the storm, and they were stronger together. As they erupted from the canyon, soaring back into the open sky, they glanced back toward the fight behind them. The recognition filled Sarah with warmth. The fire in one another's eyes reflected a bond that would carry them through the dark. They had done it. They had rescued their teammate against all odds, faced the storm swelling above, and still, they stood together. In that moment, Sarah realized they were no longer just pilots, they were a family. A family willing to face any challenge that lay ahead. As the moon glowed bright over them, illuminating their path to safety, she knew their dreams were within arm's reach. Life may throw curveballs, but together, they could rise above. As they soared through the night, the cockpit buzzed with laughter and relief, enveloped in camaraderie and hope. They had awakened a fierce determination within, and nothing could dim that light now. "Together, always," she whispered, filled with awe for her team, her family. And with that, they took the skies, ready for whatever adventure awaited them next. You need to subscribe now to witness more incredible stories like this. This is your moment to show your support and join our journey. Remember to like this video now, it feeds the algorithm and helps our community grow. I want to hear from you, so comment your thoughts and reactions to the ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Together, let's spread the inspiration.